Okay, so the point of today's class is to look at another set of risks. So we've looked at construction risks, economic risks, political risks, and today we want to look at social and environmental risks. So we're going to take two projects, neither of them happen to be in India, and sort of see what are the kinds of social risks that come up, what do companies try to do, what could you do, those kinds of things, right? So the two projects are the Bujagali Dam in Uganda and ConocoPhillips now, which is a large oil company doing some oil exploration in Ecuador. All right. So group 3 and group 6 will present. So I'll ask group 3 to present Bujagali, right? Who's coming up from group 3?
No. So we'll be presenting about the Bujagali Dam project and the influence of IRN or International Reverse Network on that project. And to start with the political scenario, the political stability of Uganda was not as rigid as it seems. Like although they gained independence from British in 1962, after some military coups and wars and everything, Major General Idi Amin actually seized the power in 1971, and during his 8-year reign, he has killed around 3 lakhs Ugandans due to some unrest there. And later, Mr. Museveni, who is also the president of Uganda now also, he was major of the National Resistance Army, and he seized the control in 1986. And from that time, he is actually continuing as the president of Uganda. And talking about the economic scenario there, once he elected as the president, he actually privatized many state-owned companies, and the GDP was like around 9.2%, which was very higher compared to sub-African nations at that time, like from 93 to 99, but it actually fell to 2.6% from 99 to 2001. And they thought that the lack of the affordable power was the reason for this, and Museveni thought about having some power project to provide the people an affordable power so that they can raise some economy also. For the poverty alleviation and also to build the hydro project plants, he actually met many companies in US and Europe and etc. And only one company nodded for their call, and that was AES Corporation. And they combined with the Madhwani Group, which is a localized company in Uganda, and formed a consortium called AESNP or AES Nile Power Plant Project. They had 3 options to have a dam somewhere. One was Kalagala and Bujagali and Karuma. And as indicated in the table, if you're choosing like Kalagala first, there is high potential of power generation, but the environmental cost will be very high. And if you go for Karuma, the power generation will be low, but the environmental cost will also be low. So Bujagali was somewhere in moderate region, so they went for that Bujagali location. And the overall project cost was estimated to be $582 million US, and they were proposed to have a 200 megawatt power plant and a 100-kilometer long transmission line connecting to the national grid. As discussed in all the case studies, World Bank again offered help for this project also, and they had actually evaluated various options, like there was plenty of geothermal energy also present in Uganda, but they thought like that Uganda doesn't have that technological feasibility or something to exploit in a very recent manner this geothermal energy. So they went with the hydroelectric power project itself, and the AES company actually expected a rate of return of 16 to 20% from that project. So after that, after some debates and all with the parliament, the AES and the Ugandan parliament agreed signed a power purchase agreement, and they had collaborated with the Ugandan Energy Board, that is UEB, and a 30-year BOT project was planned. In that plan, AESNP will actually construct and operate the power plant, and the UEB has to manage the transmission lines. So the payment time was like a UEB. Here the risk allocation was actually with more risk was allocated with UEB only. Like AESNP was saved a bit. Like they will anyway get a fixed monthly capacity payment from UEB, and a variable capacity will also be paid monthly, which will cover the debt service, maintenance, and they had a target return of 80% on the equity that they put on. Like they put on around 120 million US as their equity. So their target return was 18% on that per annum. And these were the financing term. Like they had to raise about 464 million US, and the rest will be put up by the equities from AES and the pre-power sale. And International Financial Corporation, African Development Bank, and World Bank agreed to raise the rest of the 464 million US, and they said that they will provide the loan, but only if you adhere to certain social and environmental standards. So what they done that International Financial Corporation actually appointed a Canadian company called Acres International Limited to actually verify that if the hydroelectric power plant is the most feasible option there, and they conclude that yeah, it is the most feasible option. And AES developed an environmental action plan and an environmental impact assessment of the region by hiring some experts. And the EIA actually stated that around 2,000 people will be displaced and some more for 15,000 people will be affected by this project. And the main tourism activities like water rafting and which actually had a revenue of like 4 lakh US dollars, yeah, per annum. And the cultural properties like the grave sites and everything will have to be displaced from there. So they developed an exhaustive environmental action plan. They agreed to minimize the impacts and also to adhere to the environmental standards that EIA has proposed. And World Bank also ordered to either to preserve Kalagala Falls or Bujagali Falls as the natural biodiversity. And they had said like, yeah, we will preserve the Kalagala Falls for the spiritual, for preserving the spiritual cultural values and also to promote the sustainability of the region. And yeah, then came the opposition from the NGOs and various cultural leaders, local residents, etc. And two of the main campaigns or NGOs which opposed the project was Save Bujagali Crusaders and National Association of Professional Environmentalists. And they claim that yeah, we are under poverty, but the people are actually even poor to pay the tariffs that they have to pay for the electricity. And this would affect the local communities who are actually thriving on the availability of this water or river which is flowing through there. And they said like they haven't tried to improve the existing transmission lines. Like they could have, if they could have improved the transmission lines, they didn't have to go for a project like this, which involves a high cost of investment. And Ugandan government was actually again known for some political corruptions, and there wasn't a competitive bidding also. Like they were actually AES, they contacted AES and they agreed and they came into an agreement. There wasn't open bidding for that. And IRN or Industrial Environment was another NGO which actually came to this role, and they also opposed it. And their main concern was the project cost, like is it feasible? And as I said, the options weren't assessed, like whether to go for geothermal or hydroelectric plant. There wasn't a justifying assessment of the options, and the affordability of the people to pay for the tariffs, and also decision making process, as there was no competitive bidding. And IFC actually reported, IFC actually proposed a report which contained many shortfallings, and again the geothermal option wasn't justified. And IRN told that this is not the way to actually propose a plan, and we should actually go through it and review if the project is right or not. And like they had one option whether to get the, I mean, for the project they had actually, the World Bank actually had to agree for a multilateral investment guarantee agency, and once it is signed, then there is not much option available for IRN to delay the project or put an end to the project. So they wanted to either delay the project so that they can raise some issues against it, but they didn't have any credible data or sources to say that yeah, this project is against it. And they demanded a copy of the power purchase agreement also, but it was actually kept confidential. There was no transparency in this case. And but somehow they received a leaked copy of the inspection panel report, which stated that the project didn't comply with the certain policies, and they had actually submitted this to the World Bank. And as well, the Museveni and the president and AES actually turned against NGOs' actions to collect the information.
I think that's a very, very exhaustive presentation, which presents the the events leading up to the case. All right, so let's just take the project first of all. So the project is about building a dam on the on the Nile close to the Bujagali Falls, essentially to generate hydroelectricity, right? Why should you go ahead with the project? So there is power generation. Okay, what else? Employment maybe. Okay. You have something to control the water in case there's a risk somewhere. What does that mean? You can, but at the same time, you have both problems, right? You are actually preventing water from flowing naturally, right? So this might actually then cause a little bit of flooding as well. So I'm not quite sure that could cut both ways. Any other reason for doing the project, right? But let me put water storage there anyway, because there you could store water. Yeah. Okay. Any other reasons for building the project? So economic reasons, right? So it will improve the GDP. Fine. So these I think are the key arguments for the project, right? So you'll generate power, provide employment, it will improve the GDP, maybe water shortage could be addressed because you're actually damming parts of the river, you're not letting it flow. In a drought year, maybe you'll have water, etc. Okay. What risks does the project face? Okay, be specific. When you say environmental risks, what is the risk here? Okay, one is displacing people. Okay, that's a very displacement. It's a very tangible risk, right? So you'll have to sort of displace people, and that then leads to people having to possibly change their livelihoods because they're going from one kind of an ecology to another, right? So that's a key risk. Yeah, Arjun. So yeah, so it could cause flooding. Okay, fine. Right. So is there will there be an outbreak of disease because you're actually damming the flow of the river? There's more stagnant water in those kinds of tropical climates. Maybe it will affect biodiversity. Roshan, you have a point. Did you have a point? Yeah. Same thing. So biodiversity. 1 second. Swapnika had her hand up. Okay. So whitewater rafting will have to be stopped, and that's tourism revenue lost. Also employment. Okay, so there'll be no whitewater rafting. Somebody had their hands up. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, Zamir. Okay, affects livelihoods. Fine. Okay, somebody had their hand up here. Yeah, Jayakishan. Okay, very costly. So it's very costly, possibly. Okay, so we have a series of so Parthik. So dams, yeah, there is potentially irrigation, but I don't know how much agricultural land is there here for it to be directed. But yeah, but hydroelectric dams also have the potential to support irrigation. Yeah, sure. Okay, so there could also be political issues with other countries. Okay, there are reasons for doing the project. There are reasons against doing the project. The reasons against doing the project are, primarily there is some political reasons, but a lot of it is either social or environmental, right? So this is an environmental issue, and these are sort of social issues. Livelihoods is probably a social issue as well, right? So primarily your risks are environmental and social, right? So now you put yourselves in the shoes of, so what's happened here, as these guys presented, as Arvind was saying, Uganda felt that they need to augment their power generation capacity. For reasons best known to themselves, they went ahead and said, we will do development of hydroelectric dams. They then went and found this AES corporation, which was based in the US. Those guys tied up with the Madhwani group. Madhwani group is a local Ugandan group, so you have that local knowledge, international expertise, and they come and float this project together. They have a certain capital cost for that project. Certain amount of it will be equity that AES will put in, right, and certain amount of it will be debt that will need to be raised, right, and they had a schedule for essentially export credit agencies to come and put in that debt, right. But what happened was that it looked like the export credit agencies that they initially reached out to would not be able to put in the amount of debt that was required, right, and therefore they went to the World Bank and essentially the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Organization, MIGA, to sort of say, look, can you guys put in the debt into this project? Okay, so if you were MIGA, okay, would you put money into this project? Or if you were the World Bank, right, and you had to fund it, right, how many of you would fund the project? So all of you raised your hands. Yeah. So essentially the way, maybe I can just get back to my slides here, right. So we have, these are the key players here. There's of course the Ugandan government, right, which is going to buy the power, okay, and they have entered into what seems to be a relatively sweet agreement as far as the private provider is concerned, right, because the private provider says, I'm going to generate power, you've got to take all of that power, right, and you've got to pay me a fixed cost and a variable cost. So essentially the private provider almost has guaranteed their returns, because irrespective of the power generated, there's a fixed payment that comes in. Whatever power is generated is being bought out. So the private player seems to be taking very little risk, and they seem to be getting a return, I can't remember, something in the neighborhood of 20%, right, which is quite high. So the Ugandan government is a key player that says, I'm going to take this on. You have the private provider here, AES and Madhwani, who says, look, I'm going to sort of make a profit, that's why they're there. And then you have the World Bank, which is doing a couple of things. One is it's putting money into the project, right? But as we talked about in the last class, the fact that they're putting money into the project also increases the reputation of that project in some sense, right? People look at it and say, oh, the World Bank has invested, then they've done some due diligence, they're somewhat responsible, I can also put money in, right? So it's they finance, but they also boost investor confidence, right? So these are the key players, the Ugandan government that buys the power, private developer that develops the project, and the World Bank and others who are actually lending to the project. Of course, the consumer, the Ugandan citizen, right, is the end consumer of the power as well, but they don't have a direct alignment with this project, right? And it looked as if this project was being shaped relatively well. We'll get to your point in just a second, Tilman. Before these guys came in, right? So when we look at how did these guys come into the project? How does why did the International Rivers Network have anything to do with a project in Uganda? Correct. So essentially there are, so you have sort of an American activist, okay, who puts this on the radar of other activists. And I think this is very important to understand with regards to social and environmental risks, is that just because it happens in a particular region of the world, it isn't necessarily a localized issue, right? So there are, for instance, NGOs that are global in nature that keep looking for projects where their intervention they feel might be beneficial to the project, right? And so International Rivers Network, as the name suggests, is not localized. At some point this comes up on their radar. It's not as if they're the first ones to notice this. All the Save Bujagali campaign, etc., and that NAP or whatever, all of those guys are already protesting against the project, but these are small voices, right? Whether they're heard or not is irrelevant. Anything you do, there will be some objection, right? So these are small objections that can possibly be just pushed aside. But when a large player like the International Rivers Network steps in, then they bring with them what we call a large voice, right? First of all, they can mobilize a large amount of money, right? Which means they can actually conduct a proper campaign for or against this project, right? So they can conduct, in these days it would be social media campaigns, etc. In those days it was probably a little bit more low tech in terms of brochures and newsletters and articles in newspapers and magazines and so on, but they have the money to be able to reach a large section of the population and also to make enough noise so that pretty influential people in other parts of the world start questioning, right? Is this a project that is really being done for the good of the country, or are you doing more harm than good, right? So small NGOs might create a little bit of a rustle, but sometimes these agendas pop onto the plate of larger organizations who just have more bandwidth, more savvy, strategic ability, more money, etc., to actually be able to make this into an issue where everyone needs to sort of think about it, right? Because otherwise you might have a big smear on your reputation, right? So imagine if everyone in the world believes that this is bad and the World Bank puts in money, right, then that's a terrible outcome as far as the World Bank is concerned. You will be branded forever as catering to these kinds of projects. So at least they make you stop and listen, right? And that's the story with which they come in, right? When they assess the project, right, technical risks are probably pretty low because these guys seem to know what they're doing. AES seems to own stakes in there's large number of power plants, right? There's something like in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, whatever. So these guys know probably enough about power, so that's probably low. There's some questions on the economic side of things. Does Uganda need so much power, right? At these rates, will the economy be able to absorb it? Supply risks in terms of can the power be supplied? That's pretty low. I think the falls have there's a good amount of water. The hydroelectric potential is high. The political risks, yes, Arjun did mention, but that's again why you bring MIGA in, and there don't seem to be any obvious political risks. Because it looks like the states downstream aren't really starved of water. They probably have alternative water sources. So yes, there is a medium risk, but clearly the big risk is also a social and environmental risk, right? And interestingly, both of these risks are borne by the Ugandan government, right? Which is where it looks like the private sector has got a little bit of a sweet deal here, right? So IRN looks at this. Dams across the world have these problems because they cause resettlement, they cause changes to the ecology, and ecosystems are very difficult to replicate in a man-made manner, right? You can't really go ahead and say I will create a marshland somewhere, because the number of interconnected functions in a marshland are so huge and have evolved naturally over decades that it's just not possible for us to start recreating certain ecosystems, right? So there's always a loss of ecological value through these kinds of development. So dams often have these sort of concerns are being raised. This is very typical. Economically, I'll generate power, I'll create jobs, GDP, etc. Environmentally and socially, what's going to happen? Same thing with the Narmada Dam, right? The same set of issues, right? Is it, there's an economic sort of driver, there are social and environmental issues against it. So IRN starts looking at it, and IRN then says, okay, this doesn't seem to be really fair between AESNP and Ugandan government, right? The AESNP is virtually taking very little risk, right? Ugandan government is taking a lot of risk, and when a Ugandan government is taking risk, what does that mean? It means it's getting passed on to the people of Uganda, and therefore is this project even necessary, or is it the correct project for Uganda? So they raise a number of objections, right? What are the objections that they raise? One objection, which is what Tillman pointed out, is where was the competitive bidding process, right? Okay, fine, you wanted a hydroelectric project. Is this the cheapest project that you have out there? All right, is this the most economically viable? Is this the best value for money that's out there? So that is one question, and I can't really answer that question because I only went and asked one person, right? I didn't go ahead and ask a number of people and then decide how much this would cost. They also have some other objections. What are the other objections that they raise? So why generate power when your transmission infrastructure is in tatters, right? Improve the transmission infrastructure, it's much cheaper, right? And the existing power will go a longer way, right? Why are you investing so much in this? What about alternate power sources, right? Okay, fine, you have hydroelectric potential, but what about geothermal power? What about solar? What about alternative power sources that might actually have been much more beneficial? Yeah, other points. So yes, because you have a relatively costly power plant, your power prices are going to be high. So does that mean you are only going to benefit the rich and the industries that produce a lot? How does that power get translated into being used by the common person? And because Uganda has a relatively low GDP, it's too much to ask the state to subsidize the power, right? So that might be difficult to do, right? And therefore, are you really again building a project for the rich, by the rich, to benefit the rich rather than a common man's project, right? So these are all the kinds of questions that they're asking. AESNP and the Ugandan government, how do they respond to this? How do they defend themselves? What have they done? Have they done anything on these kinds of economic issues, social, environmental issues? Have they done anything at all? Yeah, Harsh. Correct. Yeah. So they did environmental impact assessment, right? And this is what Arvind pointed out, right? So he said 2,236, 40, and you guys remember how many consultations they did, right? So they said 1,000 odd consultations. It's a large amount of work, right? Doing 1,000 consultations, right? And it sort of is a lot of effort, and they've identified many things. 2,236 people, and so many livelihoods will be disrupted, cultural heritage will be displaced. So it's not like they've not done anything. They've actually done an assessment, understood the environmental degradation, destruction of tourist environments, etc. And they've actually proposed solutions, right, to some of these. They said, okay, this is what we'll do, we'll sort of recreate some cultural heritage centers here, there. There's some very amusing anecdotes also about what they did, because there was also first of all they say, look, we also thought a little bit about which waterfall to pick, right? And Arvind had that chart where if you had picked one waterfall, you would have gotten a lot of economic benefit, but the environmental degradation would have been terrible, right? And there's another waterfall where you would have minimized environmental benefit, but probably not worth building the dam there, because there's hardly any power that comes out of it, right? So they've tried to balance. They've tried to sort of maximize economic output while simultaneously minimizing environmental degradation, etc. So they come back and say, look, it's not that we don't know about this, but we've thought about all of this, right? We've thought about this, we've picked a location, we've done an analysis. It's not just some naam ke vaste, whatever, we've actually done 1,000 consultations. We've got this huge report that we've prepared. We've got precise numbers. We have a plan. So there's one story where we call it the spirit and the waterfall story, right? Where there was one indigenous group that sort of believed that their sort of the spirit that guided their tribe, right? The god that their tribe followed resided in this waterfall. And by damming the river, the waterfall, that particular smaller waterfall would obviously stop flowing because you've dammed the river, as a result of which that god would die, right? And if that god died, then the fortunes of all of those people in that community would essentially disappear, right? And so essentially they would be a godless community, they'd go to hell, whatever, etc., right? So this was a belief and a concern, okay? I'm not going to poll you guys on whether you believe in God or not, but nobody really knows the answer, right? Let's sort of be honest. So their conceptualization of God is probably as good or as bad as yours or mine, right? But anyway, it's a point of view. It's a large number of people and has to be taken into consideration, right? So there are a couple of options. One option is, say, this is a ridiculous story, right? Gods don't live in waterfalls, and if God is so powerful, then he'll find a way to live without the waterfall, right? So your argument itself is wrong, and therefore we're just going to develop, right? So that's the ride roughshod view, right? The other view is to say, look, we have a problem here that has to be solved, right? So what these guys did is, they said, okay, so how would you solve the problem? So they called this, I might not be quoting this accurately, but I think they called a witch doctor from South Africa equivalent. And this guy essentially said, you know what, I can transport your God, right? So I can take your spirit from this waterfall and transport it to that other waterfall, which by the way is very close to where you're being resettled, right? So, I've only seen these things in movies, no? So they put on their costumes and do whatever. And essentially he succeeded in moving the spirit from one waterfall to the other, or at least everyone believed that he moved the spirit from one waterfall to the other. Like I said, I'm not passing judgment on any of this, right? It's probably as realistic as anyone else's conception. But the point is, this required some lateral thinking, right? Required some lateral thinking, which these guys were up to doing, right? Rather than just sort of trying to suppress concerns, they thought about it, a little bit of expense, etc. But let's keep the community happy. So the point I'm trying to make is they did not just disregard these risks, right? They went ahead and did something about it, okay? So great. So they did all of this, okay? But what is, but is this enough, right, is essentially the question. Correct. So I think it goes back to the point that yes, they've done, so IRN criticizes them and says, look, you've not done a bunch of things. These guys come back and say, no, what do you mean? I did 1,000 consultations, right? I moved spirits from waterfalls to waterfalls, right? So I did all of these kinds of things. What do you mean? And IRN said, that's fine, right? You've done something, right? But you still haven't addressed many of my concerns, right? Why this project? Why at this cost? Why these people? What will happen to the, why AASNP, right? What will happen to the power after you produce it, right? Where are the answers? Show me the power purchase agreement, right? Let me see what deal you signed with this guy. Let me compare it with other projects across the world and see if it's a fair deal or not, right? And what does the Ugandan government say to that? The answer is no. Power purchase agreement is confidential, right? I won't tell you why I selected this person. I won't tell you what I need to pay him. I won't tell you what the terms are, but you have to believe me when I say that this is beneficial, right? And this is where it starts getting, stuck quite a bit, right? In terms of, the Ugandan government, essentially there's a quote that Museveni makes essentially where he says, I'm sick and tired of people coming from all over the world thinking that they know what's best for Uganda, right? Some German girl says all of this. I ask her where Uganda is and she's never visited or she's never been, right? So we are local people. We understand our problems. I've been elected or I'm running this country for a long period of time. Please let me make my decisions, right? Is one point of view. The other point of view is, right, this is all the bad practices that we've talked about rolled into one, right? No competitive bidding, no transparency, I don't know what agreement you're signing, no real economic impact assessment, all of those kinds of things. So this is a little bit of the impasse that's out there. Now, because IRN is such a strong player in this field, this issue comes up and is at a level of has been publicized at this level that it actually causes the World Bank to stop and think. Right? So essentially the lesson here is that transparency is important. We even saw that in the last class, right? This was one of the big issues with Dabol as well and Enron, in the sense that nobody knew what agreement they had signed, why there was no competitive tender for Maharashtra, all of those kinds of things, and those were some of the planks that the new government actually stood on to knock them off, right? So very similar stories. What you don't see, you often don't, what you can't see, you often don't trust, right? So again, this reeks of, is there favoritism? Right, is why did we select this particular group of people, right? Why did we sign a PPA that nobody is exposing? And that then, in the hands of a player who actually has some resources, becomes a little bit of a deadly weapon, right? And they actually raise it. So the point is that these issues of transparency can be picked up by a wide variety of players, right? And they can be raised up even if it's a player who's not connected to that geographical region, as a result of which the project can very quickly be stopped. Right? So in this case, what happens is, so ASNP did this, promised to relocate, monetary compensation, they did all of this, etc. Right? So IRN says, look, you haven't met the concerns, this may not benefit the poor, the process is not transparent, alternative options are not considered, project is too costly, right? Feasibility analysis is flawed, Right, so they do all these campaigning, incites NGOs around the world to mobilize, repeated letters, and when I say a letter, they probably have the backing of some pretty influential people. See, the board of IRN, and I haven't gone and checked, probably has some very influential people, so that when a letter like this goes to the World Bank's director, it's not something you crumple and put in the dustbin, right? You at least say, I need a firm response to a letter like this, right? So they have the ability to be able to raise these issues. In certain cases like this, you might argue they're doing the right thing. Right? But in certain cases, they may not, NGOs may not necessarily be doing the right thing. Right? One of the dynamics we have to understand is that how do the NGOs survive, right, of this sort? Sometimes they survive on campaigns like IRN does. Right? There's an explicit statement in the case that says, look, we have to choose our campaigns wisely. Right? So very often, I'm looking for campaigns because only if I campaign effectively will people fund me. Right? In order for me to get funding, I need to find campaigns. Right? And therefore, sometimes your ideology might move away from doing the right thing to continuing to do what you've been doing, right, which may not be the same thing at all. So, oh yeah, that I'm assuming, and the detail is not provided in the case, but that's where they're working with local NGOs, their presence on the ground, they're probably talking to people. A lot of this will be done relatively rigorously, right? It won't be people sitting somewhere in California commenting on this, right? So they would have local partners, etc., right? Goes to court to obtain PPA release and convinces the World Bank at least to send an inspection panel to study the project, right? So it says, look, if you want to fund it, fine. But the World Bank says, okay, let me at least think, right? All right, so we've talked about all of this. So, and there's all this data that's coming up, right? So the Maheshwar hydroelectric project costs half as much, right? Of course, people say the conditions there are different. You can't compare, right? This is being built in a jungle. The construction costs are very different, all of that. But there's data that's coming up, okay? So anyway, this is a scorecard. IRN disagrees with everything, environmental concerns. The government says, no, we've done adequate work. For the power purchase agreement, they say, oh no, this is a raw deal for the people. The government says, you know, the parliament looked at the power purchase agreement and the parliament is elected by the people. They know best, right? Who are you to come and run my country for me? So on and so forth, right? So IRN takes its role very seriously, and Museveni says, what do you guys know, right? Why are you guys coming from somewhere and stopping my development, right? This could be a game changer for my country. It could provide jobs. People are starving, right? So this is the arguments, okay? So now the World Bank has choices. Should I continue with the project? Should I scrap the project? Should I continue with the project but ask these guys to take more environmental precautions? Which paths should I take? Okay, so this is where we are and this is the analysis. Now just in terms of what happened next, World Bank Inspection Panel actually finds a number of non-compliances regarding how the World Bank views social and environmental issues, right? So they say, look, you guys have not complied with many of the safeguards that we have in place, okay? There also simultaneously was some bribery investigation that was going on the contractor that was selected. The Ugandan court then ordered the release of the PPA and made it public. There's an NGO called Prayas that then did a comparison with what was there in the PPA and found out that compared to other hydroelectric dams in the world, this seemed to be a bad deal for Uganda in terms of the capital cost, in terms of the price of power, etc. And in August 8, 2003, AES announced that it would withdraw from the project, right? And said, look, there are too many hassles there. I'm being, you know, these guys are saying I haven't done enough environmental safeguarding. I'm being investigated for bribery here. Somebody is telling me that I need to build it cheaper, that the power purchase agreement is unfair. Just too many headaches for me to deal with. I'm out, right? So deals follows through, right? So the Ugandan Energy Ministry says, okay, fine, right? I still think it's a good project. Let's put it out. And lo and behold, they find that there are 5 people who submit competitive proposals, right? Each one pushing each other's costs down to actually build a project at a much cheaper cost to supply power to Uganda, right? So in some ways, one could say that while IRN was not able to stop the project, perhaps what they were able to do is to create enough of a buzz to set these dynamics in place that finally a much more competitive procurement selection was awarded, right? So, well, we'll talk about what could be done differently, but I wanted to show you this video.
Today, with the formal commissioning of the Bujagali hydroelectric facility, Uganda can celebrate the commencement of its energy independence.
Just look at the tone of the titles. Largest certified clean energy development in Africa. Reduces CO2 emissions by 1 million tons per year.
Building a dam on the Nile River is certainly something that is not done every day.
So these are this is the consortium that won the bid where 5 people were on.
The government was in desperate need of power. They had rolling blackouts daily, holding back economic growth in the country.
They had a relatively small amount of power, consuming about 450 megawatts of generation. They paid almost $1 billion over the last several years in cash payments outside of the country to bring in fuel oil to burn, and yet still had all of these brownouts. We knew that by doing this hydro project, we could deliver cost at less than a third.
Reduce the cost of power by 70%.
Hydroelectric power is renewable, it's clean, it doesn't require payments to other countries. The facilities last a very, very long period of time, 50, 60 plus years.
It's a big change for businesses, big change for the people that have been impacted by that lack of energy.
We think it'll increase their economic growth by about 2% a year relative to what it was before.
2% increase economic growth, that's large, 3,000 jobs.
We've made tremendous investments in schools, health clinics,
This is the social
small and medium-sized
angle.
enterprises, and training, vocational training for the people in the area.
Unique
All
precedent
of
for
Africa is looking on
PPPs.
how to do PPPs, and here you have an opportunity where actually being able to do it.
This is a project that is unique in terms of the opportunity to partner with government, to partner with multilateral organizations, and for private capital to come together to do something that had been envisioned 18 years ago.
This is actually setting the stage for further rollouts of similar projects in different parts of Africa, which is what Africa needs.
Model for responsible investing and help drive growth in Africa, right? So right now, post the competitive bidding, right, this is the spin. I mean, this is sort of what these guys have to say on the project, okay? But it's also, okay, this is the IRN web page, okay? Let me see if I can highlight a few things here. So the government of Uganda, help from World Bank did this, etc., etc. Yeah. Unfortunately, the expected reduction in electricity costs has not been realized, okay? And instead, the average cost of electricity increased after the dam was commissioned. It's now the most expensive hydropower project in Africa, right? I think it's a fair guess that the person who made that video is not the person who's writing this article, making it unaffordable for many Ugandans. The dam drowned the treasured Bujagali Falls, a spectacular series of cascading rapids that Ugandans consider national treasure, right? So you've lost economic value, not gained 2%. The dam submerged a place with great culture and spiritual importance of the Basoga people. I think these were the ones whose spirit had to be relocated, right? As a result, economic benefits have not been realized. Local environmentalists say the costly dam harmed Uganda's chances of pursuing more sustainable energy alternatives, pointing out that the Bujagali dam failed to help the 86% of Uganda's populations who are connected to the grid. And NGOs are doing this, that, whatever they're concerned. However, the government of Uganda continues to plan for more dams on the system. Okay, Uganda needs more energy. That's true, and a host of options have been presented to the government. But despite the costly mistake of the Bujagali dam, the government continues to pursue large hydro to meet the needs of the country, right? So you can see how same time, same day, we actually have two different, we've got one video that says one thing, another video that says another. So you have all of these tensions that you have to resolve. But at least for our purposes, the story is that the environmental, social, and in some ways the process was not really transparent. And what that did was it allowed NGOs to get in and really put a spoke in the wheel. In this case, probably for the better, because they could kick out the AES and Madhwani group, do fair and competitive bidding, probably lower their prices, and still build the dam, generate some money. But IRN continues to be unhappy, right? And so the issue is, you've got to, when you do these projects, you've got to be ready for people to come out from wherever, whichever direction, and start questioning the project, right? So that's why competitive bidding, open examination and debate, right? So more transparency is often better, because people who question the project probably have a better chance at finding their answers. Problem is, it's a lengthy process, right? If I enter into debates on everything, the thing will never get done, right? So that's where it's important, but stakeholders are likely to be satisfied, and therefore the process of development matters. See, objective depends on whose perspective you are looking at, right? So yeah, I mean, in any endeavor, there are always winners and losers, right? So you can take the winner's perspective, you can take the loser's perspective. Yes, some people who did not get power got power, right? But some people had to move for no fault of theirs, right? So there's always winners and losers. So there's no objective perspective in this, but yeah, I mean, people tend to cherry pick their data, and that's where you need to get better informed. Yeah. No, I think it was a completely, from what I can see, it's sort of Blackstone Capital. So there are a bunch of private players who brought their own funding with them. World Bank might not have been involved in it at all, although it was interesting to see that one of so well, AES pulled out, and then Madhwani was left without a partner. Or it bothers you, the World Bank didn't pull out first. Yeah, so I think, and this is where, so there's a little bit of a catch-22, and this is the problem when you're someone like the World Bank, is you also feel that there's a chance for development here, right? So you don't want to pull out, you want to see if you can explore all of these options, right? And in this case, I would like to think that over a period of time, they would probably explode it and come to the same conclusion, but possibly earlier other things happened, this bribery investigation, this, that, and AES essentially said, look, we can't leave our money sitting here for this long, because that's opportunity cost, you can invest it elsewhere. And so off they went. That's exactly the Chad, the sort of the Chad issue, right? So you have a country that is not democratically stable, right? It's a dictatorial country, and therefore should you even go there? But then the point is, if developmental organizations don't go there and develop, what chance does the country have? So yes, on both sides, right? To be able to say, look, political risks are potentially high, but at the same time, and that was the big issue with Chad Cameroon, right? Because it was just the political risks on how the project, how the funds would be used from that project, etc., were really high. Here, those kinds of risks seem relatively low, in the sense power is being generated and we know that energy is good, if we can find a way to make sure that it's distributed equally, right? So from that perspective, I think it's they're not as concerned as they would be in Chad. Okay, great.